The Flyers are the best at one thing, though, and that is face-offs. And you know what the shit part of their high face-offs is?
What?
Is that in the past week, they have taken the least face-offs per game, like, out of any team. Which is like, that's great. You have the most face-offs. The shitty part is you have the least amount of fucking face-offs per game, so you don't utilize that at all.
I mean, at least we're capitalizing on the ones that we have.
Yeah, no, I get that, but you think you'd be able to develop some sort of system around the fact that you're a strong face-off team, and the fact that most of their shots are from the point, and then, you know, you're not getting the pucks in deep, getting it tight, and then making the goalie work and then freeze the puck. You just take these point shots, which get blocked out high, one, and then two, you don't get second chances on. It's like, well, you're not getting pucks deep. Even if you were just like going for like heavy face-off game and then working with the fact that you're at 61% like win percentage on face-offs, you could just be like fucking killing the game, killing possession. Except, you know, you're taking half your face-offs in the defensive zone, half in the offensive zone, and it's like, well, you're not holding the fucking puck.
That's true. I'll let you know right now, I am recording, and this is the Orange Line. My name is Docter Phd, otherwise known as Pat Haley. I do not have Matt Tompkins with me here today. He was not able to join me, but I do have another resident expert fan, Nigel.
Expert.
Yeah, expert. Nigel.
That's high praise, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, Nigel Haley.
Yeah, that's his name. But where we last left off, we said that one of the biggest problems was the coaching staff and more specifically the penalty kill. And obviously that has still been a problem. Looking at the past 3 games, we had Colorado, Boston, and then the New York Islanders falling to all 3 of them. And we
that was dismal.
Yeah, I mean, going down by a grand total of 11 goals to our 2. Well, not 11 goals, I should say 13 goals to our 2. They outscored us by 11. Not boding very well.
No, not at all. You touched on the power play in the PK. I mean, the Flyers 0 for 11 over the past week on the PK or on the penalty on the power play. Excuse me, and then, well, like you said, for the PK, which was also just dreadful. I mean, they were at 60% kill over the past week. Just third from the bottom.
Yeah, it's been really upsetting, and you said a little bit earlier that the Flyers are number 1 in the league in only one thing, which isn't necessarily true. They're number 1 in the league in another thing, but it's just not a good stat, and that is goals against. Yeah. It's been a rough season so far with this 4-7 start.
Yeah, and I think the worst part about it is that it doesn't look that bad when you look at goals for this team. I mean, they're somewhere in the middle of the pack, but I mean, you got to also consider you had a couple blowout wins where it's like you have 6-1, and then your opening game was another high scorer. But it's like you look at the past week, you only mustered 2 goals. Well, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to watch as a fan, and it's hard to watch even as just someone who likes hockey, because this team's not putting a lot of heart and soul into it, which I remember hearing before the game on Saturday against the Islanders. Dave Haxtell came out and said he's challenging this team to play today and to show, Philadelphia what they got, and what we ended up getting was a 6-1 loss.
Against a bad team too, a bad Islander team. I mean, not only is this team just hard to watch and play poorly, they're just so. It's just bad hockey. It's not interesting. They're not playing fun hockey. I mean, just the scheme in and of itself, it seems like the other teams are just coming the other way on 2-1s the whole game. Pretty much hanging the goalie out to dry, who aren't really helping them, in the first place. But it's hard hockey to watch. I mean, you just see shots from the point. They attempt to challenge in deep, but to no avail. I mean, you can only have so many low opportunity chances to just not score without changing something.
Yeah, it's been really rough, and like you said, we've been leaving our goalie out to dry too many times. But at some point, it just takes a toll on our goalies, which is why we end up getting these high scoring games against us, because they can only do so much. And it's defensively, it's looking like changing the pairings every single night since the start of the season isn't something that we should really continue to do.
No,
But
I 100% agree.
But for some reason, it seems like that's the trend. Is every game we have to change one of those pairings, and I don't know why we can't keep the synergy.
Well, the crazy part is that you win your home opener against a good Vegas team in Vegas, and then you instantly start changing lines. Why Folan has to come in for Gudis, who had, I mean, an all right game that first game, but you change lines, you put Folan in there, and then you have a terrible game, game 2 of the season. It just doesn't make sense. You don't have stability. And you even look at a player like Vorobiev, who just got sent down, barely given a shot, who looked pretty good in preseason, I might add.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing is it kind of feels like they're still in preseason mode, even though we're 11 games into the season, and 8th of the season is already underway, and we're still shuffling the lines around. We should already have things settled down and figured out by this point.
I agree. I think the JVR injury hurts that in some respect, but JVR wasn't on this team last year, and when you're only losing Filppula out of your top 6 as a center, you should be able to shuffle your lines to a pretty comfortable position from where you ended last year.
Yeah, and I mean, if we're going to be honest about it, it's not like Filppula was, the cornerstone of that top 6 where it's like we lose him and all of a sudden we don't know how to play hockey anymore.
Exactly. You should be able to work a guy into the top 6, into the top 9 with JVR out and play some pretty good hockey. I mean, it just goes back to the Vorobiev thing. It's like he starts the year with Simmons and JVR on his wings. JVR goes down, and then it's like Vorobiev has, you could say, a below-average game, and then just like that, he's out of the lineup.
Yeah, that's what seems to be the problem with some of this coaching is like you make a mistake and you're sat for the rest of the game or you're out for the next game. It's become kind of like a meme or a joke between at least our friends where, Travis Konechny will, take one bad penalty or, he'll cough off the puck once and then he's sat for the rest of the game. It's like nonsensical disciplining of your team.
Oh, and it almost always seems like, Hackstall's picking favorites. He's choosing, the players that he likes, which aren't necessarily the skill guys. I mean, and all the time they're not. I mean, they seem to be, gritty players, muggers, who aren't really getting you anywhere. Just in his second season with Ghost and his sort of sophomore slump, he was totally willing to sit Gostisbehere, a player who should be seeing no bench time at all.
Yeah, it's rough, especially when you are dealing with a Gostisbehere or even like a Provorov. Like these are two very elite defensemen, and you're punishing them because of, I don't know, insert any random answer you want there, because that's what it seems to be.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. I mean, for the past, 2 or 3 certainly after his first, I feel like Flyers fans have really not had any benefit with this coach. I mean, he has a bad scheme, the way that he's running things, and it just shows up with the hockey that his team plays.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is that it comes back to this team isn't playing with any heart. They're not playing with anything, I guess, in their skates. They're not playing with anything in their soul, because I think JVR getting hurt early in the season probably was a big crush to the team. But when you have a coach who doesn't seem to be willing to loosen his ideology for how he wants to play hockey, it ends up kind of crushing their spirit, and it's like, okay, well, even though these players seem to not want to play in this system, he's not loosening that grip at all.
I know what you're saying, and it brings me back to when the Flyers had that last, I should say, season, 3 games of Pierre Laviolette, where he gets canned 3 games into the season for a very similar situation, just a disheartened, locker room, and just no emotion or anything. He got 3 games into the season and can't. I mean, that's my thing. If Schneider's still around, there's no way that this is going on right now.
Well, it's looking like more and more opportunities are coming for Dave Haxtell to really prove himself, especially with this 4-game road trip over to the West Coast. For him to kind of prove that he should still be the coach, because Bobby Clark has been to the Flyers games when he's usually not there, and people are trying to take notice, even higher up than Hextall, and at some point, someone's going to have to go, hey, Hexy, this isn't working, and as a fan, we're all kind of just waiting for him to go, all right, you guys were right.
Well, I feel like with this trip that you brought up, out west, you had the California games with Anaheim, LA, and the Sharks, and then you have one in Arizona. I feel like you really have to come out of there with, just 2 wins at this point, or else, you really got to start looking at changes. The Colorado Coyotes, the Arizona Coyotes, sorry, aren't a good team. They've had their struggles over the past year, and they still look like they're in that rebuild, we're young phase, so you're trying to get wins. The Sharks are a good team, beat us earlier in the year, have a killer defense, so, you're probably looking at a loss right there. So obviously the Flyers come out and lose the first 2, win in San Jose, because that's just the thing that they do. But really, you have the Kings and the Ducks back-to-back. Both teams are having their struggles this year. And I feel like you have to win one of those 2 games, and then probably the Coyotes game, and then you probably feel like you're slightly coming out. But if you have a week like you just had, you've got to really think that there's got to be changes.
Well, so you mentioned the 3 teams that were playing up next, all 3 in California, the Ducks, the Kings, and the Sharks. And looking at it, the first 2 that we're facing, being the Ducks and the Kings, they're actually struggling in their last 3 games like we are. The Ducks went down in their last 3. Kings lost 2 of their last 3 and only winning by 1 point in their most recent game to the Rangers. So I think, if anything, we should be able to capitalize on both of those, even though Anaheim is sitting with a 6-3-2 record. It's gonna be it's gonna be a lot better for us to try to capitalize on teams that are slumping right now.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but you look at the last game, the Islanders game, and that's not a very good Islanders team. They're young, they're inexperienced. Sure, they have a new coach in Barry Trotz, but you lose your franchise player. So you think it's like, all right, you're starting to slump as a team. You have the Islanders coming into your building, so you kind of go into it where you think you can come out at 2 points with that pretty easily. But you come into an arena where your fan base isn't behind you. You're not livening up the crowd, and then you lose a terrible game 6-1. I mean, mind you, the Islanders only had 22 shots on goals, but really, three or four of those goals were odd man rushes. I mean, just where the defense is backing off of them, they have all this room to skate, and then the puck ends up in the back of the net.
Yeah, it's been difficult because it seems like we're giving up too many opportunities from their own zone where we just can't connect on a pass, or someone's fumbling with the puck at the blue line, and no one seems to either want to get back or even can get back. And
go on.
Well, it's like I said, it's ultimately just not good to watch as a fan, and it's not good to see your players do that.
Well, I feel like it's also an effort thing. When you say that, players are losing the puck at the blue line, I mean, you got to think that, your defenseman has the puck. I mean, they're pitching a lot with their defense, but that off wing has to be the guy to rotate back and cover for when a defenseman moves up. And you don't see that happening. There's so many odd man rushes. And when you say you can't control the puck, I mean, just look at the power play from the last game against the Islanders. They had 0 shots get to the net in 3 power plays. 0 shots get through bodies to the net or even just miss the net. I mean, that's embarrassing to be up a guy and then just completely fail in that sense.
Absolutely. It's something that I want to say it's just disheartening because it's not even so long ago we had one of the best power plays in the league. I think it's pretty safe to say. And
yeah, I mean, a couple seasons ago, they were a top 5 team. And even the PK, I mean, if you have to go back a little farther to the Mike Ritter days, we were a top 5 penalty kill as well.
But now we're at a point when it seems like it doesn't even feel like an advantage. We have one more guy on the ice, but we're passing around the puck too much to even capitalize on any opportunity that we could. And does that make you think that the Flyers should just be shooting more? Are the fans right for once where they should be telling the players to shoot?
So I think you have to have your chances to shoot and move the puck, but I think it's more of a problem where you're not getting the puck through. You haven't really changed the scheme of the power play over the past few years. It's not like you have a Ovechkin on your wing where it's like, sure, you can kind of, play with the puck on the right side, and then when it's getting to Carlson, the puck's just going to Ovechkin and he's going to shoot. And the puck's usually getting through. I mean, people pretty much know that you're going to set up with Giroux on the left wing, and he's going to be your quarterback in that sense, and you're going to try and get the puck to Simmons down low, or you're trying to get the puck to up top. And the problem with that is that teams are game planning well enough where it's like they're taking away that chance, and you don't have that ability to get it across to Voracek or in the middle to Couturier. I mean, they're playing you tight on Giroux, and it just seems like we're not getting the puck to where it needs to go.
I feel that, and from what I've seen, whenever we're on the power play, teams are just finally getting more aggressive for us. And I don't know if it's necessarily them getting even more aggressive or us kind of feeling comfortable in, setting up with Giroux, passing it back to Gostisbehere, getting it down low to Simmons, because it seems like they feel like they have more time to move with the puck than they actually do. And that's why it can feel like they're getting swarmed so easily.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I feel like it's also just their inability to get pucks, I guess, deeper within the hash marks, and then take these high scoring opportunities. I mean, I'll go back to the Island area game again. I mean, the only shots that they have in the crease area, in the slot, I mean, are mainly deflection. You have deflections. You have a couple wrist shots, one of which Terrace scores on, and then you have a wraparound try, which is usually pretty low effect. I mean, you see most of these shots from around the perimeter, and that's just not a way that you're going to have an offense that is going to be able to put pucks in the net. I mean, you see the way that the game's moving now. There's so much puck movement and speed. I see that coming from the other team, but I don't feel the same sort of schemes and energy coming from our own team.
And it's absolutely showing, because right now I'm taking a look at the stats, and our power play is at a even 15%.
Yeah, which, that's with a strong early season power play. I mean, the past couple weeks it's been bad, man.
It's putting them in the bottom fifth of the league at 24, and it's rough to watch.
Yeah, it's really hard when your even strength isn't working, and then you kind of hope with the weapons that you have in this offense. You can take the special teams and sort of make up for that. But I mean, I just looked up the stat. In the past 2 weeks, you're at 5% on your power play.
Ugh. And
that's just something that you can't have success with unless you're playing this high level of 5-on-5 play that you see in Colorado. I mean, you look at their top line, their top player Rantanen, he has 21 points this season and only 4 on the power play. They're just playing very, very high level, even strength hockey.
Which it seemed like in the past years is not even close to being the Flyers' forte.
No, I know what you mean.
It seems like we're given a lot more life on the power play, especially last year with how well it seemed for Simmons and Jake to pick up points on the power play. And this year it's not panning out well. There's not much else that can really be said about the power play other than something's got to give, and I don't know if that's going to end up being coaching or just trying to scheme up a few new plays when they break into the zone.
No, I know what you mean. So, do you think So putting the coaching thing aside, because that's what everyone's talking right now, do you think the locker room needs a shakeup? From one of their players. Do you think that would be a greater assist to this locker room if you say a player like Simmons or Voracek or Couturier or Ghost, you chip them out, talking in the most extreme cases, to bring back Spurgeon to shake up your locker room and maybe spring something that turns into better hockey.
I think the thing about that is, no matter what, I know you said that everyone's talking about the coaching staff, but it's going to be hard for us to bring in a new player, and it's hard for me to think that there's going to be more success through that new player within this system. And I would love to, find a player who can either bring a spark or bring some kind of motivation to this locker room that we would be able to get rid of, Jake or Simmons for, but it's hard to think that we're going to be able to get a similar return for what we'd be giving away.
I know what you mean. So I'm going to say something crazy. The perfect guy to bring into this locker room right now, who helped in 2012, coming all the way from the Czech Republic, Jaromir Jagr. Put Jagr on the third line, sit Jordan Weir, put him on the wing, let him be a role model in the locker room. That would be awesome.
I think that could be good. He did a whole lot for our team back in 2012, right? Um, and he would be a lot better of a mentor, especially for these younger kids that are coming through the system now. While also being able to alleviate some of the offensive pressure that some of these top guys on, our top six, would probably feel for scoring.
I know what you mean, and obviously, I mean, Yager is just an extreme case. He's what 45 now, playing in the twilight of his career. The only reason that I say Yager is just because he's a guy who still wants to play in the league. He's going to work really hard, and I think that'll just be a good presence in the locker room. I mean, realistically, I think there still has to be some sort of shakeup because right now the team doesn't want to play for these coaches, and it shows. It really shows that there's no heart in that locker room, and it really bothers me as a fan when it's like your team's down and there is no emotion behind that bench.
Yeah, it's frustrating to watch because no matter what, it's going to end up coming to if the team itself has no motivation out there on the ice, then whoever's behind the bench has to give that motivation, which obviously isn't happening. So I'm being hopeful for these next 4 games out on the West Coast, in seeing if the if the rumors are true that Hextall could be on the chopping block with these next 4 games, if he's going to be able to spark this team and carry them to a couple of wins or at least a few points. And if they can't, then I have to hope that the rumors are true because it's getting to a point where the fans are screaming for this guy's head, and the response that it seems that we're getting is you guys don't know what you're talking about, which it kind of hurts as a fan because I feel like you or I or some other fans out there are pretty knowledgeable in terms of what's happening with this team.
Well, even knowledgeable, but I mean, pretty much the general public can see a bad product when it's on the ice. I mean, you don't have to know a ton about hockey to see if one team has the puck a lot and is scoring a lot of goals, and the other team is only playing defense and scoring 2 goals over 3 games. I mean, it's just a bad hockey team. So here's the thing: if you go out west and you pick up 1 win, 3 losses, but you win a 2-1 game against the Kings, who are playing pretty bad hockey, and you get outscored in the other 3 games, by 11. And there is no change, I guess, in the coaching staff or with the personnel. Do you start looking at Hextall, the GM, as somebody who maybe, you don't trust as much anymore?
Absolutely. I feel like where we are with this team is that we have such a loyalty, which is something I talked about in the first episode of the Orange Line with Matt, is that I feel like Ian LaPerriere is still with this team because we feel like we should be loyal to him for what he's done for us on the ice, which includes which includes getting a puck straight to the mouth. And it feels like so many people are willing to not criticize Hextall because of the legacy that he left behind when he was a player for this team. And when he first came on as general manager, I thought, this is going to be good. He's a guy who knows this organization and knows this fans and is going to have his finger a bit more on the pulse of the city. And so far, it's kind of seemed to be the opposite. So if we're walking out of these next 4 games with next to nothing or 1 win against a team that's slumping, I'm going to have to look at the coaching staff, and I'm going to have to start looking at the people who are higher up.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like Hextall is almost reluctant to pull the trigger in some cases, and a lot of the time it's with these young players. I mean, you look at like Travis Sanheim, who you take a little longer to develop, and then it seems like last year, he's up and down, in and out of the lineup. It's like at some point, the kids have to be ready, and I feel like the fans are kind of tired of the process, for lack of a better word. On paper, before this season, we look like a good team, and then when the product isn't out there, and the whole league, pretty much league wide, the team is looked at as pretty much a playoff team, top three in the Metro, and you're not getting those results. I mean, who's wrong? Is it league opinion? Are we not that good of a team, or is it just you're running the system? Hextall is running this system that is not successful. He's playing college hockey, similar to how Chip Kelly played college football in a professional environment, and you're not having success.
It feels like it's kind of going to come down to someone taking a hit to their own ego and just kind of going, I'm wrong. And whether that's Hextall for saying that he's running the wrong kind of system for this NHL team, or if it's Hextall for just saying, maybe I shouldn't have just picked this guy from, a college team out of nowhere, seemingly.
Well, I don't know if the pick from the college team is necessarily, the wrong path. I thought, and I think most Flyers fans did when he came in, looking at the hiring, it wasn't going to be a bad fit. But then it's like you give them the first season, they make the playoffs, and it's like, all right, there's mistakes, but you kind of give them a pass. You're like, all right, it's your first season. You're coming into a different league. You're just trying to learn. But I mean, I just read something today. He's the fifth longest tenured coach in the NHL with a pretty subpar record, with not that bad of a team behind him. I mean, something has to give. You have to reach a point where it's like you think this guy has been in the league, been around the league long enough that he should know how to coach an NHL team.
Yeah, it's at a point when he has to go. If I'm just gonna give an answer, he's not doing the job that he was supposed to, which is come in with this kind of rebuild of a team and improve upon it. And so far, we haven't improved this team from where we started to where we are right now. And well,
go on.
It's just it's hard for us to continue to say, oh, we'll be that team in the next 3 years, because I've heard that for the past 10 years. So I would like for that to at least be true at some point.
And going off of what you said, I mean, it just feels like there's nobody stepping up and taking the ego hit. There's no accountability. It's really, really hard when, you sit a player for Folin, and then he has a terrible game, and then you, as the coach of this team, come out to the media and say, Folin didn't play that bad at the game. I like the way he did this and this. And it's like, dude, he was a -3 player and led to, had 2 turnovers, which led to 2 goals. I mean, there has to be some sort of accountability, and you have to show that you know what you're talking about. And if you're just saying that to the media to cover yourself, I mean, that doesn't help me as a fan of this team. I want to know that you know what you're talking about and can see the things that we as a fan base can see.
Absolutely. And so that's why I think these next 4 games are going to be really, really important to take a look at. Because, like I said, if the rumors are true of him possibly being on the chopping block, or him to at least start getting looked at and being scrutinized a little bit more, I think these next 4 games could be really big in the future for this team and for him as a coach.
No, I 100% agree. I think this week will be a very telling week for how this team moves forward in the rest of the season.
Absolutely. Well, Nige, thank you for joining me today on the Orange Line. It's been a shaky start to the season. 4-7. Hoping for the best in these next couple of games out there on the West Coast. But I've been Docter Phd. If you want to yell at me on Twitter or argue with me, you can do that at Docter Phd, Docter. Nigel, if you want to plug anything.
I have nothing to plug, man.
Awesome. He'll be around. He gives me a lot of my opinions and information, so you'll probably see me quote him. But thank you so much for listening. I've been Docter Phd. He's been Nigel, and we'll see you next time.